What's up, YouTube? Brad and I made it back from North Carolina. It was a great trip. We sold a lot of calls. Glad to be back here with Braden. We're going to get started today. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and the tips of public land hunting. Land hunting.
Yeah, and we picked that to do this week because right now is a prime time for people putting in for draw hunts or pulling tags in multiple states if they require a draw, or if they only sell a certain amount of tags in that state. Right now is the prime time for that to take place.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with some pros. Braden, there's lots of hunting ground out there. That's one huge thing about public land. You can go just about anywhere, from Indiana to South Dakota. We go to South Dakota, and it's basically public land hunting. You can go just about anywhere that has turkeys. You can find public land to hunt. Hunting different states, like I said, it's just out there everywhere. Don't do your research.
I mean, I think one thing you can always look at it this way is there's more people out there that don't have hundreds of acres to hunt,
right?
And public ground gives you guys that opportunity to have a piece of ground to hunt.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough over the years to always have my own ground. I very rare get to public land hunt, but it's kind of cool. It's a switch.
It's a different challenge.
Yeah.
And I myself, unfortunately, haven't had that luxury of having a chunk of ground to hunt. And I cut my teeth on hunting public ground, and the majority of the birds that I kill, even now, is still almost all public.
Yeah. One of the big pros to public land hunting is it's free.
It's free, right? Yeah. So you can go anywhere, and it's going to cost you a tag, and sometimes you can stay in the truck, sleep in the caper shell, back seat, whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you want to, splurge and get a hotel, then you can run out and do that. But not even just hunting, hunting trips. I mean, there's a lot of people in state that just rely on public ground like I do. And, it's like you said, it doesn't cost anything. And as I like to say, I'm a public landowner. Yeah. So, you might as well use that resource.
Yeah. Braden, that's a couple pros. Do you want to tell some cons of?
Yeah, I mean, I think public land hunting gets a bad rap every now and then, or it can be more challenging, and maybe that's a pro. Maybe you you're getting comfortable and you're going out to the family farm and you're killing that bird opening morning, and it's that same routine year after year. You know what they're going to do, you know where they're going. If you want a different challenge, jump to public land. But some of the cons are, some of the places around here are specifically draw hunts. So even though it's public ground, it's not open to the public. You have to put in for a draw. And several states have that, and it's different. Different state parks or whatever, WMAs or whatever have certain draws. Now that can be a con if you don't get drawn.
Right.
But it can also be a pro, because they're only letting a certain amount of people in there. So even though it's public ground and it's probably thousands of acres, they're only letting a certain amount of people in there. So that can be a con, but it can also be a pro if you get drawn, because there's only a select few in there. Hunting pressure, that's something that you have to learn to deal with when you're a public land hunter.
Hundreds of guys are coming in pressuring the same bird that you're going after. You've got to be careful.
Yeah, and you don't know who's there or which direction they came in from, if they've accessed it from a different access point or whatever. You can hear a bird gobble for a long way, and if somebody's willing to walk, hunting pressure can be an issue. And you don't know what happened the day before.
Yeah.
Either. I mean, a lot of us only get out there on the weekends, and there may have been a guy out there, Friday morning who shot a bird, and you don't know what happened. Where that difference of hunting on your private ground, what goes on. If a bird got killed there the day before or whatever. So
I think pressuring a bird is one of the biggest cons, because they're very smart. You pressure a bird and they know what you are, they're going to move out of the area. You got to be careful with that.
You can definitely push birds around, and but you've just got to be able to as a hunter, be able to decide what to do if those birds shift and where they go. And typically they're gonna stay near some sort of water source, their food source is going to stay the same that time of year. So you got to be able to adjust your location based off of those. Another con to public land hunting is hunting hours change. So they may not be the same as the state regulations. And I know here in Indiana, some of the public ground I hunt, you can only hunt till 1 o'clock, and then you got to be out. But the state of Indiana, we're allowed to hunt all day.
Right.
So hunting hours can change depending on your public land, and that can be a con. Kill a lot of birds in the evening, and if you're hunting public ground, that's just in some public ground areas that's not an option. So
Right.
so hunting hours may be different. You got to make sure you're checking your regulations. So that's another con. So now let's talk about like actual tips in helping you guys be more successful when hunting public land. And this is the reason why you're probably watching this video. I mean, it's more challenging. I think we've got some good stuff here lined up, but Evan, what do you think you want to start with?
We're going to start with put in for the draw. That's one of the main factors that you want to start with that I can help you with. Braden, we just ordered our tags for South Dakota. How many?
Yeah, I mean, so where we put in for, they only sell 300 tags, and the first day they had sold over 150.
Yeah. So thank gosh we got in.
Yeah, but we're on top of that stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the big tips is put in for the draws. So do your research. Put in for it. We pay attention online to their parks and recs, and it tells us whenever our first day we can buy tags, and we bought them first day.
Yep. And then and like I said, some places are draw hunts, and if that's your local area, if you've got a local place that is a draw, and you're like, oh, I'll put in for it, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll get to it Sunday, and then that day just doesn't happen. If you don't put in for the draw, you're not getting drawn. So there has been several times I always religiously I put in for the draw, and if I don't get drawn, there's years where I'm sitting there opening day, opening weekend, and I don't have a place to go, and I'm literally sitting there hoping that somebody that was drawn didn't show up. And there's days where I've gotten in on that, and then there's days where I've just went back to the house because I didn't have a place to go. So, but the main thing is if you don't put in for the draw, you're not getting drawn.
Right.
And the good thing too, though, is if you put in for the draw and you do get drawn, then you can start doing your homework.
And homework by scouting. Scouting's a big factor. You want to make sure you scout before you hunt, because if you get out there, you don't want to pull up to a place and, well, I seen birds here last year in the field driving by. Let's hope they're there this year. You pull in there and you go out there and waste a morning of hunting, and there's no birds there. You've wasted a day of hunting.
Wasted a day, and I think you brought up a good point too. Is a lot of people do their scouting from the road. Right. So I will tell you this: hunting public land. This is another great tip. If you're seeing birds from the road, everybody else driving by are seeing those same birds from the road.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that is a spot that I try to avoid. If there's not a draw, if it's just an open public land, that is a spot that I try to avoid, because opening morning there'll be 4 cars and not one pull off, and they're all going after those same birds that they seen from the road, and you're calling against 3 other guys.
Yep.
So do your homework, get out, put some boots on the ground, do some walking, find some roosts, find where their water source is, find where their food is, off the road, off the beaten path.
You want to be careful. You don't want to pressure them early.
Right. I'm not saying just go blow through the flocks, but you need to. You can figure out the way of the land that way too. If you're going into a new area before season and you're doing your scouting, you know where those bridges are, or you know where some of those potential hangups are, or maybe there's some old logging roads that would be good to call birds up, or call birds down. So those are things that you need to look for when you're scouting.
And that involves the next tip there. You want to get there early, like you said. Get there early. You want to stay late. That way, you got your spot. Basically, you're already in there first, and you're the last one out. And hopefully, you tag him on the first day or so.
Right, and I mean that's huge. when I'm hunting public ground, and if I've done my homework, and I do, when I find that group of birds that I'm going to target those first days in, you can guarantee I am the first one on that public ground. And I mean,
you and your dad was sleeping in the truck at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we've done that many times. Like, we're getting up at 2 o'clock, we're going in, we're parking the truck, and we're kicking the seat back and sleeping. But that's calling my spot. Nobody else is pulling in there because we're parked there, and by gosh, that's going to be where I'm going in. So get there early. Don't eat tag soup because you're too lazy to get up an extra hour early.
Yeah.
And like Evan said too, stay the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If you can. Now there's circumstances where you can't stay. But the majority of the birds that I've killed
a lot of birds at noon, 1 o'clock.
Noon, 1 o'clock.
They move away from that hen. That hen goes to root nest.
Anything after 9 is good.
Killer.
And hunting these turkeys, they're just crazy. They just do weird things. But most hunters get frustrated and they go to the house after the roost. They gobble like crazy, right? The roost is awesome. It's fun because they gobble and gobble and gobble, but they're roosted with hens more than likely from the night before, and they're going to pitch down with those hens, and it makes it tough.
Right.
But once those hens go to nest, like he said, stay late and use that time. You put in the time to scout, put in the time of getting up early, being the first one there. Make sure you're staying and getting your full-time work.
But, Braden, if you get to your spot and there's already people there, you're gonna have to have a backup plan B and C.
Yeah, and B and C, and that's crucial. You have plan A, right?
Yeah.
And then if plan A don't work out and somebody's like you and they've gotten up at 2 o'clock in the morning and they beat you to the spot, that's fair. We already mentioned there's tons of land typically when you're talking about public land. Go to plan B, right? And if plan B, if somebody's there, you've got plan C. And you've got to have backup plans, and plan B and C aren't just for if somebody's in your spot. And that's one of the great things about public land, is with there being so much public land, if you've messed something up, let's say you cruise in there in the morning and you get in there a little late or something, and you bump them off the roost, and then they're not gobbling or whatever, or maybe you shoot and miss.
Yeah.
Trust me, with Dad, I've done that before. We've got in there. We got in there early opening morning, and he's missed at 5 minutes after daylight, and we're like, what do you do now? Well, you go to plan B.
Yep.
And the last time, luckily, plan B worked out for Dad. So
it's been happening every year.
Yeah, it's kind of a common factor, actually.
We got him a new gun this past year, and
it's working out better.
It's working out well. So.
But yeah, so if you screw up, or if something just goes wrong, or maybe a coyote busts in and scares your flock off or whatever, it's not over. I mean, there should be plenty of options. Drive around, find plan B, and head to there. And if that doesn't work out, check out plan C maybe later in the day. So always have that backup plan. Another cool thing too, look at your maps and see if there's another access point, maybe on the backside or close by. And we do like a walkthrough hunt. And now I'm not saying it's just a hike and we're just walking through, but we work our way towards another parking spot. So what we do is actually we'll park a car in one spot, and then we'll go around and park on the other side. And that does two things. One, instead of walking through and then having to walk all the way back, you can just get in the car and drive back around there and get the other vehicle. But the other thing it does is that sometimes it eliminates that other hunter coming in on you from the backside. Yeah. So that could discourage another hunter from parking and hunting and coming in on the backside of you and hunting that same turkey.
That's the thing about public land hunting.
You can kind of reduce that hunting pressure on you by doing that. And there's been several times where, we may be, know that these birds are way deep, and we'll park on one side and then have a car on the other. So when we hike that in, maybe it's we don't come in from the other side because we think they'll pitch down towards the other instead of trying to walk through them in the morning, and maybe there's an obstacle, big creeks. We got some pretty big hills around here, and if there's some ridges and stuff that we can't get around, we'll come in from the opposite side. But then end up that morning, if it doesn't work out, we'll just continue pushing on through the public land, trying to strike birds up with a locator call or box call or something like that, and then just work our way to that other call.
One of our last tips I want to wrap up before we get out of here, technology. We got these high technology phones. I personally have a couple apps. Mark your birds, mark your spots. Public land hunting, you get in there, you get lost, especially if you don't know the place. You're going to get in there in the dark and you're going to get wrapped around this place and you're going to be backwards. So I use for deer hunting, turkey hunting especially, I'll mark my birds, mark where I'm seeing them in the fields, try to.
I tend to, with the how it's evolved, when I go in and scout now, I can pull into a spot, and when I walk back there, I mark how many gobblers I'm hearing in that spot, and so I can pin that. And so if there's 3 or 4 birds gobbling, I'll set my pins kind of in the direction that they're gobbling. And then when I go back, like when I mean do your homework, I'm not saying go out there one time. I'm saying you're going out there religiously and making sure, because birds are going to be patternable at this time of year. And I'm going out there and I'm listening repeatedly. Okay, is he still gobbling in that same spot? Is he flying down and heading to this field, or is he flying down and going this way?
See what he's flying down into too.
Right.
You wanna.
And so I mark that with pins, and then that way, when I'm trying to figure out what plan A, B, and C is, I'm using my technology and saying, okay, I've got 4 gobblers, routinely in this hunting area, and I know about where these guys are going. And then if I look at another pull off or parking spot, it may have 1 or 2 gobblers in that area. So I'm going to probably pick the 3 or 4,
right.
And I know that by, setting those pins. And then, if you don't get drawn or whatever, and maybe somebody else goes in there and you're only hearing 3 birds gobble, there's a chance that maybe one of them's gotten taken off the hit list by another hunter, and that you can kind of keep track of that data. So, and the other thing is use your technology to look for parking spots, access ways. I'm constantly, if I hear a bird that's way off and he's the only one that I'm hearing gobble that morning, I'm looking at my maps thinking, okay, is there another route to get in here before I, trample through, miles of woods to try and get to this turkey. So look at the technology, use it to your advantage. And, I think that's going to definitely help you become more successful. And like he said, it helps you find your way out sometimes. Because in public ground, you got to be willing sometimes to just put in the walk. And, you've got to be able to just brush it off. And
they like them small fields in the back of mile stretch of the woods. There's them small grassy fields they'll land into. That sun will hit them. So you want to make sure you use good technology, mark your spot. But do you have anything else?
No, I think those are some of our top tips that we had for tonight. And we like I said, we don't want to keep these videos running forever, but I think if you can focus on some of this stuff that we've talked about, it's gonna help you become more successful.
Absolutely.
So, and like I said, I love to hunt public ground. I mean, if I have my choice, I want to hit private first, but I honestly don't.
I'll take you hunting this year.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be great.
I'll take you out and see what we can do.
So,
well, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you don't have any Spring Fever apparel, get online on our website, order you some apparel. Make sure you put your long beard on speed dial.
Spring Fever custom call. See you guys next week.